and we will move right into talking about DNA. Okay, this is going to be quick. So this is basically a repass of what I talked about at the June meeting. Just trying to give a little bit of an overview and bring you up to date on what's going on with our DNA sequencing work. So first, a little bit of the backstory. Genetic barcoding has been available to the amateur mycologist for a while now. It really kind of took off, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, when the North American Mycological Association sponsored a project that was called Mycoflora. And we were an early investor in this project. We bought a number of vouchers to do this type of work and assembled a team to do the administrative work and the documentation. But back then, you didn't do any of the lab work yourself. Basically, you just dry the sample out and ship it off to the lab, and they'd eventually get back to you with the results. By the time that I got involved with this project about a year ago, I was phasing out as program chair and looking for something else to do and wanted to learn this technology. So I volunteered to be the, heavy air quotes here, nominal leader of this group. So we finished up with that, the last of the previous Mycoflora project at Sequinota 2021. And all of the original members of that Mycoflora group had since gone on to do other stuff. So we basically created a new team from scratch. Couldn't be luckier because this is really a great group of people to do this type of work. First one, you'll be hearing from her in just a minute, and actually heard from her earlier, our science advisor, Megan Romberg. She has been the most important member of the team because she has so many years of experience doing this type of work. Of course, we all know Annie now. She's frequently doing our online ID sessions. Anil is another new board member. He is really important to us as well. He mostly for one big reason, because he professionally, he works as he's done software development, and he works with doing the analytics on genetics. So he's instrumental for our data management side of this. I would say after Megan, the most important member of this team is Sarah Nella. She is our point of contact with Nature Forward. That is the rebranded name of the Audubon Naturalist Society. And she is also a wonderful field mycologist. Sarah Nella is all but dissertation in mycology. And you're going to hear from another important member of our team, Zay, in just a minute whenever I hand it over to him. So I just also wanted to highlight, there's never been a better time to learn something on your own than there is now. Like most anything you want to learn, there's just tons and tons of great videos, content available on the web. That's also true for the autodidact or the self-learner trying to find out about DNA sequencing. Here, and I have links to all these on the MAWDC website on our fungal DNA sequencing page. Sigrid Jacob did a great talk for us back in June. This fellow, Damon Tai, he's located in California, I think, has a really good talk. Alan Rockefeller is kind of the rock star in this type of work. He's got a couple of good videos out there. And perhaps the best of the lot, this guy, Stephen Russell, he's out of Indiana. He's probably done more fungal DNA sequencing than anybody, literally thousands and thousands of these of sequencing through his work out there. And also Fundis has a good site with a lot of good resources on it. Fundis is the rebranded name of Mycoflora. And so that's worth checking out too, if you're interested in gaining some more knowledge about this. So in 2022, we set and achieved most of our goals. First things first, we wanted to start doing this lab work in-house, so we needed to purchase the equipment, get everything set up. We did that pretty early in the year, within the first couple of months, and we've been up and running ever since. The other thing for me, this is important, we wanted to have well-documented protocols. You want to do good science, that means you have to have repeatable process. You want to have a repeatable process, that means you have to have good documentation. So that's not fully done yet, but we are well on our way. The other goal, we didn't quite achieve this. I wanted to have several team members who are capable of doing an entire run, PCR run independently. It's going to take a couple more rounds of practice. We haven't quite achieved that yet. We still have to rely heavily on Megan and Saranella to help guide us through, but we're getting there quickly. Also, we want to focus on quality over quantity, set a not too ambitious goal of 100 samples in 1 year. I don't think it's too ambitious. And we've been able to achieve that as well without sacrificing any of the quality along the way. We have had a couple of road bumps we've had to encounter, and Megan will be talking about that in just a minute. And my other goal is transparency. I am well aware of the fact that our board at this club provides a non-trivial amount in our business line item every year. And so I want to make sure that we give some feedback to the membership, which is what we're doing now at the December meeting. We had a couple of projects that we were able to realize in 2022. The most important one is at the Wood End Sanctuary in Chevy Chase. Again, this is property by the Audubon Naturalist Society. It's been rebranded now as an Audubon Naturalist Society no longer exists. It's now called Nature Forward. That's a 40-acre facility in Chevy Chase. It's just a wonderful project that we were able to facilitate through the help of Saranella Linares. We go there generally once a month to sample and do lab work. And this is going to turn into a longitudinal study every time we show up there, find new things, run them through DNA sequencing and helping to add to our master list. We also added Jug Bay as another place that I believe will turn into a longitudinal study similar to what we have at Wood End. And at Sequanota, we dragged all of our PCR equipment up there and did some sequencing work. Not all of it, takes all day to do an entire run, but we did a lot of the prep work and collected a ton of samples at Sequanota as well. And so moving forward, goals for 2023, again, we want to have several members of the team who can do this process independently. We will achieve that. I expect in a few months or maybe a little more, will be 5 or 6 team members who can just pick up that mobile lab and be able to do this. A little bit more ambitious. I'm hoping we're going to be able to process 200 samples in 2023. Our biggest thing that we have to do, though, to my mind, is come up with better ways of managing data. When you do DNA sequencing, you create a lot of data, and you know, as the number of samples that we collect keeps going up, we're just going to have to find ways to reduce the data entry and come up with some better ways to come up with some record keeping for all of our samples. Another thing I'd like to do, I've reached out to Stephen Russell, just mentioned him a moment ago, to potentially be one of our guest mycologists at Sequanota this year. When he was at Pittsburgh with us earlier in the year at the Linkoff foray, at that event, he sequenced 700 mushrooms. So hopefully we can get him. The other big thing is I want to start advertising lab days to the membership. When we meet at Wood End, if you want to stop by and chat with us about the process, or if you want to join the team, you know, we'd love to have new members. And also, if you have mushroom samples that you want us to do DNA analysis on, this is what we want to do. You could drop them off to us on lab day and we'll add them to the queue. I will begin posting these on our MAWDC website. And again, in the sake of transparency, we'll have the same meeting next year, at the end of next year. So why are we doing all this? Well, mostly because we're one of the big reasons. A lot of the best field mycologists I've ever met, probably a majority of them are amateur mycologists. So this is just a way to do a knowledge capture of that. Citizen science as a force for good. This is kind of a glib reason. Kerry Mullis is the guy. He's the Nobel Prize winning chemist who came up with PCR. And he claimed, he was an eccentric character. He claimed that it would have never been possible if he didn't frequently use LSD. In case you didn't know, LSD is derived from a chemical that you find in the ergot fungus. Also, we're trying to advance science by doing research grade observations. And I don't think, even though Washington, D.C. has so many people who are so many academic institutions, et cetera, studying this type of thing, we don't have a good footprint of the type of mycological diversity that you find around Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. So these are just continuing to contribute good data points to our knowledge base. And herbarium. So, you know, as this technology continues to advance, who knows, 8-10 years down the road, some researcher might see one of our samples and need to study it a little bit more for something that he's working on. So we want to make sure that we do good preservation techniques so that sample is able to be available for further study. Next steps, this nanopore minion, this is definitely the next step in technology. That technology is ready now, but it'll probably be a year or two before we incorporate this into the MAWDC sequencing group. I also like to start doing lichens and slime molds. Slime molds are pretty straightforward. I think all you need is a different primer for those. With lichens, that's pretty involved. As I was saying before, lichens have two organisms in it. So when you amplify the DNA, you might be amplifying the fungus, or you might be amplifying the algae. And so there's some techniques to deal with that, but we definitely want to add this to our capability list. Always looking for new locations. And again, I want to start advertising lab days for members to come and drop samples off or just hang out and learn about this technology, which is a good segue to our next speaker, Zay. And he is going to give us a quick overview of what you have to do out in the field, because we want you to do your homework out in the field before you drop a sample off, trying to practice good science techniques. And so I'm going to hand it over to him now. I haven't talked this much in my 15 years with the club consecutively. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Zay.
Thank you, Tom.